We're going to talk about the disturbing security situation in the Federal Capital Territory. Now, according to SB Morgan intelligence report between July 2022 and June 2023, 3,620 people were abducted in over 582 kidnapping incidents in the country, with a reported ransom demand of at least 5 billion naira and an actual ransom payment of over 302 million naira, a figure that could be higher due to the underreporting of this incident. And the report has actually reviewed that. And the scourge of this abduction, which is strangulating socio-economic activities in the Northwest, has spread nationwide as bandits and other criminal elements have moved the operations into the major cities across the country. So the hoodlums, who before now operated on highways and in rural communities, have in recent times escalated the attacks on residents of Lagos, in Abuja and other urban centers. So the killing of the 4 abducted victims from the Sawari Estate layout in Dusan Alhaji area in Buhari Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, ignited a very groundswell of anger on Monday, and the bandit who kidnapped 7 family members demanded a whopping 700 million naira for their release.
That's a huge number. And the hoodlums had on Friday killed Najeebah al-Qadiriyah, a 400-level student of biological science at Madubella University, Zaria, over alleged delay in providing a ransom, generating a firestorm of anger across the country and on social media. As of Monday night, the remaining 5 sisters, including Najeebah, a 500-level quantity surveying student, and Nadherah, a 300-level zoology student, are still in captivity. Now, this sad and disheartening development is the thrust of our discussion this morning on Daybreak, where we will be talking to a renowned security expert, retired Brigadier General Jon Temlong, via Zoom from Jos, the Plateau State capital. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. It's a pleasure joining you too.
Thank you for joining us, of course. And while he was in military, he was the commander in charge of multinational joint task force. And also, I think we have Baga is also an avid writer and researcher on security matters and conflict resolution. All right, let's start by talking about exactly what is happening in the Federal Capital Territory. I mean, the increase of abduction in Nigeria and the capital at large has definitely been felt by the citizens of the country. So what is your take on all of this?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, my heart reaches out to the families of those who lost their loved ones and having their children now in captivity. What is happening now is quite sad, and it's showing a level of the loss of humanity in this country that we've reached. People are being flouted about and traded like animals for money. It's quite unfortunate. But then it goes beyond just that the value system that we have lost. It also shows too that this very social order of this country has broken down. Broken down in the sense that what we knew as our values, the social values before, have already been broken. The hierarchy of security from the local level right up to the highest level has broken down. The way you see people flaunting money in the midst of poverty is something too that caused some of these youth to resort to what they are doing. So if you, from your analysis, from your opening statements, you talked about the high incidence in the Federal Capital Territory and Lagos, you know that those are the areas that a lot of money is moving around these days. You had politicians who came in and flaunting so much wealth in the midst of penury, you are shouting about saying that you are buying vehicles that are worth 160 million naira, telling Nigerians who are hardly putting a meal on their table, and then you who are presenting them are saying this without any sort of pity for the people whom you are presenting. So if you are presenting me and I can hardly eat, and you are riding a vehicle that is 160 million naira worth, not just that, you are flaunting money left, right, center. I mean, it's a call for something that even our leaders themselves must purge themselves of contempt for the citizens. That way, you start having security building from within the society. The problem is that there's a lack of citizen-centered governance in this country. The leadership is detached from the citizens. The citizens are only brought into government only when there are politicking. That's during the political campaign. That's when you see citizens have their say. They go to you, they tell you all sort of stories, promises, and then they come back and the rest. The moment they are sworn in, you hardly see them. They come in with tinted glasses, having security details, driving people left, right, center.
Retired
The
general,
actual
sir.
contact between them and the citizens no more. So this itself propels insecurity. Now, gathered to that again is the lack of citizens being involved in security.
Okay,
We have so many.
General, before we get to that, I'd like to throw in this question. You mentioned this pattern of kidnapping now. You said in the northeast, and now, of course, we did talk about how it's becoming very, very rampant. It's surging here in the nation's capital and then Lagos. You did say that, you know, this is a town where a lot of people throw money around. You know, there's money in the nation's capital and, of course, cities like Lagos. But, you know, before now, we've had kidnappers operate in very remote areas. And now we're seeing that in some of the entry points in the Federal Capital Territory, there's a surge in issues of kidnapping now. So what are some of these factors, aside, you know, money being thrown in the faces of some Nigerians? What are some of the factors? Because we see that this is moving into the nation's capital, and which used to be a safe haven for a lot of Nigerians, or let's say where people say they actually said that it was a safe haven for Nigeria. What do you think are some of these factors actually?
Naturally, people move to greener pastures. And the greener pastures now seem to be where the money is residing. In the rural areas, sometimes they get as low as 5,000 naira, 1,000 naira, and sometimes they don't even have anything to give. So you find out that, and then the system of using less cash now, being money being electronic transfer and the rest, cashless society has made it so much difficult that even on the roads, when you get somebody, you might not get money from them as they used to get. So, and when they kidnap the person, they don't even know the source. Is he worth it? But in those areas that where the greener pastures, in this case in courts, is that they just don't go in to kidnap somebody. No, they study the pattern and know even the family, whether they can afford or not, who are the linkages that they can actually get money from. In some cases, even when they say the parent, they say, no, we don't want you because you are the one who will look for money for us. I have an instance of a friend, Cosmos, whose children were kidnapped, and he asked them to swap him with the children. He said, no, that the children will not be able to get money for us. It is you who will look for money to rescue your children. So it's not just that they just pump onto somebody. No, they carry out a lot of reconnaissance, a lot of background information and check on families before they pound on you. They just don't pound on you. There are some opportunity targets, like we call, okay, which they get. So it's a lot of work that they do. And that work has got insiders in them. You don't come into my house today and know the geography of my house unless somebody comes in, within my house, shows you where and where the bedrooms are, the kitchen are, the stores are, the offices are, and the rest, and what you want to steal. So
General,
somebody
let's
has to
talk
tell you
about
all those
this
places.
level of insecurity that has risen, from, let's even take the time of just from last year to the ending, the Ember month to the beginning of 2024, how this insecurity has risen. Now, before, allegedly, it was being reported that it is called the rural insecurity. But right now, it's moving now to the cities. Do you think it's the lack of the security agencies and the government in general doing their own part in order to secure the nation that is causing these people to move, even to reach to a point where everybody will feel, their impact, will feel their wrath on this situation? Because you made mention earlier that Nigerians are not also involved in this insecurity matters, but then I would give you this, that Nigerian citizens have been paying attention recently, and there've even been a lot of call outs of people saying they're going to now start protecting themselves, getting weapons in order to protect themselves, which the security agencies, I think the police came out to say, no, you just need to give us the necessary information for us to secure you. So what is the federal government, the state government, and even the security agencies, what do they need to do in order to curtail this situation?
Well, it needs both the government and the citizens to curtail this, because if anybody tells you it's just the government alone, no, it has to be the government and the citizens. And you see, the problem is that there is a death. Nigerians don't read, and Nigerians see some of these documents as if they are purely government or security, and even the government itself, there is lack of continuity. The National Defense Policy 2017 is centered on a people-centered defense policy, citizen-centered defense policy, which specifies the roles of citizens in national security or national defense. What are the roles of the citizens? Now, it's a document that has been produced. The citizens now have to be taught and organized into how their roles fit into this security architecture we're talking about. Nobody has done that. The state governments have not done that. The local governments have not done that. And even at the federal level, it has not cascaded to even the ministries, because all the ministries see it as a defense policy, so it's in the domain of Ministry of Defense. No, the Ministry of Education have a role, because by that policy, the Ministry of Defense the Ministry of Education has to look at the educational contents of the syllabus from primary school to university level and see where civics or national security awareness can be brought into, and teaching the children what their roles are and how the reporting system is, organize themselves into communities of defense at that level. So that in itself, there is a fault by the federal government, the state governments, and even the citizens have not demanded from the government that certain things should be done to them.
General, before you
Now,
continue,
the
please,
security
let's
agencies, like you
dive
talk,
into what you just mentioned now.
it,
You said,
it's real. It's
there
real.
should
Let me
be
come to the
civic
security
education at
agencies
the
now.
earliest. But then Trust TV did a documentary earlier, I think last week, and it was about the nomadic. We're talking about the Fulanis in their rural areas that are not even feeling the impact of the government at all. There is no education for them. So how are we able to reach those kinds of people? And let's not forget, it's not just the Fulani. There are a lot of villages that do not even have access to quality education.
And that's why I told you there's a breakdown of social order. You see, we grew up, some of us had the opportunities of growing up in this country during the colonial periods, or immediately after the colonial period in the 60s. We were in the rural areas. In fact, in my own village, we had only class 1 to 4 until 1964, when the class 5 was introduced. At that time, how many of us were attending schools? In a class, you had just about 30 of us, and even that 30, a lot of them will drop along the way. So there was this thing. But there was again what the Northern Nigerian government did to call adult education. That's why I told you, see, there's a breakdown. There is governance is not citizen-centered. The Fulanis, Professor Mary Laru brought up the nomadic Fulani concept. You see, even in the Fulanis, in the Arugas and Ardo, in every community, there is a chief or there is a ward head or there's a hamlet head, a quarter head, and a village head, and this thing. And so those are the various administrative boundaries now, or the administrative units now that are being used. And if the local governments are doing that, you don't expect the federal government, and in fact, like we told the former Minister of Education, she was flaunting that the federal government had built Almajiri schools. It's not the federal government business to go and start building primary schools for people, for goodness sake. What are the local governments doing? What is the state government doing? What are the communities doing? It's because the whole thing has failed. Once the local governments do not function, you will never get security at that level, because that is the unit, the smallest unit from which security starts building, because they have even a security committee at the local government level. Today, the local governments are virtually not functional. The chairman of the local government, I bet you, go to any local government today and see if you will see the chairman of that local government in the office. They are all in the state capitals, enjoying life, following the governor's left, right, center. When allocation comes, they go back and share it and they move back.
Okay, Brigadier General,
You can't have
I have a
security in
series
these sort
of
of
questions,
conditions.
and they're intertwined, but I would like to start with this one. More often than not, we hear a lot of Nigerians say, I think that if the security agencies or the security agents in this country want to work, they can actually apprehend any form of kidnapper in this country. Do you align with that thought?
Yes and no.
Okay,
Because
so make us understand
yes
why you're
and
saying
no.
yes and no.
Let me explain. Let me explain it to you. Yes and no. Yes, in that if the security agencies, in collaboration with the citizens, if the citizens give them information, and then they are up and doing with that information without exposing the citizens, and respond adequately to those information, they can do what they can do. Two, because they do not operate in a vacuum. They operate within the citizens. And that is why, well, I'll come to it later on, because Nigerians must take back their country from criminals. I'll come back to that and talk to you later about that.
Okay.
The security agencies must be up and doing. They must be able to be seen to be doing what they are doing. They have failed in certain areas. Let me give you a simple example where they have failed. Sometimes during the Muhammadu Buhari's administration, the National Security Advisor gave an instructions that all cellular numbers must be registered with the honors numbers. Honestly, today, those phone companies, service providers are selling SIM cards on the streets. And so criminals get these SIM cards on the streets and use them at random with names. Sometimes you see somebody in Kaduna there using the name of an Okon in Calabar. I mean, that becomes so difficult for them to even track these criminals when they use phones, because there are tracking devices that are available to our security agencies. That's why I say yes and no. And so if the citizens cooperate and insist that, look, we will not buy SIM cards on the streets, we will go to the service provider, they will take our biometric and get our number, and the service providers refuse to sell their SIM cards to vendors who go about the streets and hawk them, we will start having a structured security infrastructure that will help the security agencies in tracking down these criminals. It's not rocket science. The equipment are available in Nigeria. You can easily track them, but how do you track them with this situation where they can buy SIM on the street, have 100 SIM, and change every time they call the number, they throw that SIM away, so that you cannot, the signature is not even there again. Yes, you can, from that distance, you can press You can trace from where it was used, but they would have probably come into the town or moved to a separate location and called. And so when you go there, you will not see. The next thing they changed that. So if there were one SIM card, you can you can trace the pattern of their movement. That if it moves from Kaduna to Kakuri, inside Kakuri and Fon, and the next minute it moves to Kawa and Fon, you can track that movement that it is within Kaduna metropolis. But if he phones with the SIM card in Kakuri and then changes uses another SIM card in Kawo and then moves to Jaji and uses another SIM card, you can't trace the pattern of that movement.
All right,
So it
General,
becomes
let me give you an
problematic.
example of what happened recently in Plateau State. We saw the insecurity that happened. We saw it happen simultaneously in days, like continuously. And one of the things that was clear from the people, the victims, and also the security agent, they couldn't even deny it, came out and said they got about 36 calls. So based on that calls, they were not able to respond to that. One thing that the security would always say is that call us immediately if there is issues. But then if even with that time, we're not talking about a day, 2, 3, people were still being killed, they were not able to respond to that. What is wrong with the system?
Okay, you see, let me give you an example. In 2000, I was a commandant depot area. And when the crisis march, remember that happened? And I was able to contain the one in Zaria because I had information from the citizens. In fact, one of them, a traditional ruler, told me, say, look, try and block the hoodlums from the Zaria city from coming out. That once they come out from the city, they will create havoc in Sawangari, Tudunwada, and the rest of the areas. Then I studied the pattern of their deployment. What they used to do was that they will strike in Tudunwada, and when you rush to contain them, they will run away and strike in Gelesu. The next minute, they will run and strike in Sabongari and the rest. So what I did was I deployed simultaneously and blocked them from coming in. And to the glory of God, one life was lost. But you remember how many lives were lost in Kaduna? So that deserves this thing. But coming down to Plateau, is that you see, these people cannot come and reconnaissance the state with about 20 communities and attack simultaneously. One, they know that the security agencies do not have those numbers to move onto them simultaneously in 20 areas. And those 20 locations are not co-located. One. So it means they have studied, some people along have told them the deployment of the security forces, some citizens within that area, whether they were part of them or not, would have taken them round to see. And you know, the attacks were in the night. If you do not know the geography of those areas, you cannot go and attack. And some of those areas are not just flat grounds. You cross rocks, hills, and the rest. There are valleys, rivers, and the rest. So it means that there are insider jobs or people, or the people have come in, they have studied those people for some months, without anybody observing that there are strange people within the environment. And that is why the citizens come in. Okay. Because the security agencies cannot be everywhere. You do not have the number of boots that you require on ground.
Right. Brigadier General, we understand that, of course, you have pointed out that this is a collective responsibility, and I agree. But let's take a look at ransom payment now. We know that sometimes this is a very helpless situation. The security agents are helpless. The victims and their families are helpless. Now, 302 million naira just in the space of 1 year. From the statistic from SB has revealed that, you know, this huge sum of money has been paid as ransom. What do you think about ransom? I know that different governors have been knocked down for paying ransom, and even recently with Nabiha's family being abducted, and then some certain kinds of people raising money for this ransom have been knocked for that already. Do you think that we should toe in the path of paying ransom to these abductors or kidnappers, so to speak?
Honestly, it baffles me because the security agencies and the banks should be on top of this. How do you move this large sum of monies and give as ransom? Because you don't wire them. And there are regulations in place that you cannot withdraw certain amount of money. Yet we are moving, you can hear that they have moved 30 million from here and there. You are an ordinary citizen going to remove just 500,000 naira. You go through a lot of paperwork and the rest and the rest. But yet here are people moving 30 million and moving with it. And it even baffles me that you do not hide those quantum of money. If you go and give ransom of 30 million, you mean these people, these kidnappers will sit down in the bush there and start watching and looking at this money, 30 million every day. They don't want to enjoy life. And that's why the security agencies and the citizens come in too, because there must be a change of lifestyle. There are people that you do not know their source of income or sources of income, and they are living lives beyond their sources of income. Even those who know their sources of income, they are living life beyond that. This is where I say it requires both the citizens and the security agencies. But it baffles me that the security agencies have not been able to tackle this. And I've
Okay,
postulated before that
Brigadier
why
General,
can't
you
we?
mentioned
Why
baffles
can't we?
you for like,
Why
if
can't the
I'm counting
government
now,
give
I'll be
max?
counting like
Why
three.
can't the government
So when
give
you
max
say
money?
it
Please let me
baffles
just
you,
let,
I'd like you to unpack some of these things. What are the surprises there? What are the missing lines? What is it we don't understand when you say it baffles you? Because I feel like there's more to it that we should understand. Can you take us through that?
one, because you cannot move those monies without knowing who has moved money. One, or those who will come and lodge that money, so a large sum of money, and they will not find out, look, what are your sources of income that you overnight, you come and start lodging 100 million, 200 million, because you will not leave the 700 million if they are given for granted in your home. No, it's not possible. And then these people who are in the bush, wherever they kidnap them, are they the people who usually this money, or they have their kingpins outside? Those are some of the puzzles that we need to this thing. Because if you have that money, will you remain in the bush? Do they look at the way they look haggard? Anytime they arrest these kidnappers, they don't the money doesn't show on them. You don't have money. Secondly, why can't we organize in such a way that mark notes can be given to these people? Because we have those sort of things. And two, there is technology. You can put chips in some of these monies that they take to them, because you can't take 30 million in your pocket. 30 million has been taken in Ghana must go, or box or boxes. If you have chips that will tell you the locations of those people immediately, you can do that. So you can use technology to actually get who and who is getting that. You can use magnots to start seeing who and who is using those notes. You can also use the banks to tell you, look, these are this, and then the citizens can see lifestyle change in certain people overnight, and these sort of things can be arrested. Because
General, we
you
are
cannot
back
hide
again
money.
to the
You
same
cannot have that
question
sort
we,
of
we
money
asked
and
formally,
stay
where
within
we
the bush.
said,
It's
where
impossible.
is the system wrong? Because we see advanced country. The picture you painted is what we see from advanced countries, where you go to bank to withdraw money and then immediately there will be security alert, even if it's from your own bank. But then when the money is huge, you would definitely get security asking you, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to do with it? But then coming back to you already saying that the securities don't have enough capable hands, they don't have enough things to do. I don't think it would be, it would be fair for the banks now to be held accountable, to hold these people down, because we don't know what these people are going through. Already imagine this typical situation of what happened to the Al-Qadariyah's family, where already he knows he's lost one daughter and the rest are in the captive of these people, and we don't know what they are going through. We know how when a girl child is abducted, the trauma of all of that. So when that person goes to a bank, hell will have to break loose for you to tell them you cannot move your money there. But then what is wrong? What is the system not doing? Because sometimes, even with the police still promising, or the security agencies in general promising, we're working on it, people are paying ransom in order to get, the people back home. And the only thing the police would do is just to go and receive these people back home and say, oh, they are safe, and start making their own investigation later. So what is wrong? What is the system going wrong?
The system is going wrong. I told you it's simple. When you go to the bank to cash that money, there should be collaboration between the bank, yourself, and the security agencies that yes, ransom is there. That's why I said the security agencies can easily give you marked money. You don't mark money yourself. Money has to be marked. Marked money has to be given by somebody, and the security agencies know how to do that. So there has to be collaboration. It requires the citizens and the security agencies to route this thing. No, you cannot route them alone. What it is the absence of this collaboration. It is the absence of this following of these details, because those things are put in place to prevent some of these things. So yes, hell would lose, but then are you going to help tackle this situation? No, you are foiling it. So if you agree that the security agencies in collaboration with you and the banks should work towards, yes, securing your people without them being killed, but in the process, arresting these people, then it helps you, because one, you are prevented. But not just even arresting. The criminal justice system, I've always said, has to be reformed, because the military, you remember, some few months ago, the CDS told the National Assembly that they arrest or capture terrorists, and within a span of some weeks, once they are handed over, they are released on bail. You see them back within the same community, and they are more vicious when they come back. So you see, we must look at the criminal justice system, because it is the building blocks that provide security. Security cannot be in isolation without justice. So the criminal justice must be in up and doing to be able to tackle this situation. It's very unfortunate, because when you have a society that is not regulated, like in Nigeria, criminality flourish. And so criminals, starting from the top in government, right down, do not want a regulated and a structured society. Those societies that you are saying are broad, is not rocket science that gave them. You come to Nigeria, even street names, government know that there should be street names. There is no governor that has not traveled abroad. How many streets do you have now, names and numbers in Nigeria? You don't have them. But these are the national security infrastructure you need. You call the police right now, you will spend the whole of your credit describing your house to them. But these are things that Google Map has put them. If the streets are there, they punch with their phones, they punch your location, or you punch your location and send to them, and they are in your place. So you see, these things are being done because even in government, there are criminals who do not want a structured and a regulated society, because it prevents them from doing the rubbish they are doing now. So I'll come to when I said Nigerians must take back their country from criminals. I am serious about it.
General, you made mention of how vicious these people are becoming. We've seen how the Al-Qadariyah's family, the ransom has moved from 60 million to 100 million. And also there was this situation of people that were abducted in their estates from their homes as well. And they killed about 3 of them and 7. Now, before they asked for I think 100 million, but now they have opted it exactly to 700 million. So they are becoming more greedy. Do you think that, people sourcing for this money, even though they do not have it, because we all agree that majority of the people that are being abducted are from the middle class and even from the poor family that cannot even afford it. They've never seen this kind of money. So right now there is this option of we have to crowd fund, get people to gather this money for us. So do you think that giving these people money is going to encourage them more in order for them to keep up and keep increasing the money?
Definitely, that's why you find out that some countries will tell you that ransom is never an option. Like the United States make it open, even though there are cases where there are underhand things, but it's never made public. But in that case, they do make efforts to rescue their citizens. Those are the capabilities that we need to build as a country to be able to rescue our citizens wherever they are kidnapped. And I think the armed forces and the police are building those capabilities because as soon as they get some of the lift capabilities, they should be able to sweep on some of these locations once they have credible intelligence to be able to rescue citizens. Those capabilities, I know they are building them. But you see, to come back to your point, you see, there are certain things we don't have to take to the social media or to the public domain every time. We must be conscious about the security of our loved ones that are in captivity. You know, you and me, you know that it came to the public domain when a highly placed person who was in government got involved in resourcing for funds and the rest. And they say, yes, these people that have been tormented, a minister, they are talking about 50 something billion for one minister, they're talking about billions for this minister. And if it's a minister is involved, there must be money. So you see, there are things that we don't need to make noise about. We have to be very conscious about the first and foremost, the most important thing is the security of those in captivity because we want to get them alive. So whatever we are doing to raise funds, it must be secret. Because when you bring it to the public domain, these people are not doves. They are on social media. They are listening to me now on YouTube. So they know what it does. That's why certain information cannot be divulged as much as possible. How they will get to them and the rest. But it is true that we need to look at the security and safety of those in captivity while we're carrying out such activities. It's not a matter of trying to get cheap popularity and making noise. Oh, we're doing this, we're doing this. That life is lost. These children are not safe again. Who knows what will happen to them? Look at they have jacked up that money from the amount of money to 700 million. Because on the social media today, you hear about people stealing humongous amount of money that are so mind-boggling that one person they are talking of billions. So if they are talking of billions, these people are asking for their own share of it because they are taken from the common tilt. But it's very unfortunate that it is the wrong people that they are targeting, and we are suffering for all these deeds and misdeeds. That's why I say we must take back our country from criminals.
Okay, if you look at, the pattern and how all of this kidnapping is taking place, you'd understand that, let's use Abuja-Kaduna Highway as a case study. For some time now, we've enjoyed some sort of peace and security around that place. And then all of a sudden, from different highways, we're hearing about kidnapping. In Benue State, Ogbadibo local government, yesterday there was reports about 40 people traveling towards that direction were kidnapped, and in other parts of the country, which of course does not even make it to the news sometimes because, it's underreported at some point. Do you think that there's a sort of complacency in from the side of the security agents, or what is happening? Can you make us understand, the dynamism or the mystery behind all of these happenings?
Definitely, the police and the DSS must up their antenna and up their game. That one, nobody can deny that fact. They have to, yes, they have problems. They have operational problems. They have capability and capacity problems. They must up their games. Within them, there are bad eggs. They must try to fish those ones out. Within them, there are those who look at business as usual because when you have a new leadership, they look at you and study for some time, and then they think after some time it's business as usual. But let me take you a little bit back so that people can understand these things. During the electioneering period, you can quote me and let somebody deny that this fact. When the campaigns were going on, there was less kidnapping going on, less armed robberies on our streets. The crime rate suddenly dropped. Why? Campaign trains were moving from one town to the other, sometimes till 5 a.m. Did you hear of any kidnapping? Did you hear of any armed robbery attack? Did you hear of any bandits attack? Well, there is a nexus between criminality and unemployment, or the youth not getting what to do, and then the politicians who are using them have suddenly left them from where they were, and they had to go back to their trade. Some of them were following those political lists, providing security for them. They know them. Some of them, they know them. We must be serious and we must take back our country.
Could it be the
So
reason why,
the truth is that,
these leaders don't know our pain of what we're going through?
Say again.
I said, could it be, based on the trend of being called the rural insecurity, could it be why these people cannot really relate to what an ordinary Nigerian is going through, and that's why they're not putting so much effort in order to, curtail the insecurity in the nation?
Well, I told you that we must talk of citizen-centered governance. And once it is a citizen-centered once it is a citizen-centered governance, listen, please. Once it is a citizen governance, the member, the representative, will be in touch with the citizens and know the pains and what the citizens are going through. It is the aggregation of what these citizens are going through that it brings to the table at both the state and national level to say these are the pains and worries of my communities. It's not what he thinks. Ask me, how many of these constituency projects you talk about that have a needs assessment, that the citizens are involved in even telling them what to do, so that you find out that there are white elephants projects in some of these communities that the communities don't own. The communities must own this project, and that is when they will know and use it and provide for it. Go to a community and put a borehole and put a diesel generator there that they should be pumping with diesel generator. Who provides the diesel? Who maintains that generator? Are there funds for that? No. It means then they do not even know the pains of that citizen. A liter of diesel now is about 1,100 or 1,200, depending on the situation where you are. And you cannot put less than 5 liters. In some of those generators, even 5 liters cannot move it. So where will the community get that amount of money to be pumping water to drink in a day? So there must be needs assessment, because the citizens are not involved in the governance. So when you get the citizens involved and they tell you what they need, once you bring those in they need, they own that project and they protect it. So you cannot go because you want convenience for yourself, because you have bought a 160 million Jeep you now want a third road so that you don't run on rough road to your village. But the people in the village might not be interested in the road that you're talking about. That is not their priority. Their priority might be medical facility, schools for the children like you are talking about, or water for irrigation and drinking. Those are their priorities. Your own priority is that you want to drive with your new car and park it in front of your house. That's not their priority. But you say you are taking development to them. So you see, it has to be citizen governance. So what we're talking about is that citizens must be carried along, citizens must be involved in governance, and at the end of it, citizens will own whatever you put there and protect it.
Okay, Brigadier General, why does it take long for investigation to take place, and then we have information that we need from this investigation that was set up from a committee, and then implementation becomes a problem? Because yes, you talked about assessment. Assessment has been ongoing. Look at what's happening in the northwestern part of the country, the northeast, and even, I would say, different parts of the country. There's needs assessment, there's committees that have been set up, there's investigation going on. At the end of the day, when the results are out, implementation becomes a problem. Can you help us understand why these things take a very long time, and then the time frame? Nigerians are becoming impatient and they want to really understand what goes on there. We necessarily, the ordinary Nigerian, does not understand.
Is there political will to implement some of these things? You and me know that there are times some governors invited terrorists with rifles into government house to negotiate with them, gave them humongous amount of money. Did they stop? Is that the way to do it? There are professionals who are involved in these things. Did they involve the professionals? They are the governors. They are elected. The constitution gives them that liberty that they are the chief security officers of those states. They say they are governing their people. But there are professionals in the national security architecture who should have been involved and given professional advice and say, no, this is not the way to go about these things. When you do those sort of things, they go up, they might give you respite or they change base. And after they go there, they collected their own money from this state, they came back after the respite. For goodness sake, is that the way to govern a state? Is that the way to govern a people? No. We must be serious about governance. So what do you expect if there's a report that indicts even the chief executive or indicts some strong political allies, and then you want them to release it? They will not release it. So citizens must take back their country from criminals.
How can the citizen do that, General? You made mention that from what you said, it could be even from the political, the elites involved in this thing, enabling these criminal activities. So how can a poor average Nigerian who does not have the money, the capacity to even reach out to those people, how can they be brought to book? How can they pay for what they're doing?
Who elects these criminals that we know? Because they bring money to us.
So now it's back to the people. We lost General on that one. I wanted to hear that because at the end of the day, my dear, one thing that we keep saying is that we know these things. They keep saying that, okay, it's the leaders. Some of them are the one doing these things, enabling these criminals, giving them the guns during politics. And then aftermath, they will not collect these weapons from them and all that. But then one thing Nigerians would always ask is, for you that know, mention names. We want names, and it starts with one person. But a general was talking about the political will when someone finds out from the ally, finds out that an ally is one of the person, doing this, perpetrating this heinous act and supporting and enabling it, then of course they will not come out. But then if we know this are happening, how can an ordinary Nigerian manage this situation? If you see some states, you sit down with some people from states, and one thing they would keep complaining about is that they barely see their governor that they elected. They don't stay in their own state, but rather come to the Federal Capital Territory. And also, General made mention of situations like that, saying local governments also, the governor, the local councils, they don't stay also in their respective villages and local governments. So how can the ordinary Nigerian, again, do this? That is the question that I wanted the General to answer.
And also, when you talk about, calling your leaders and people, holding them accountable, now in Nigeria, where after the elections, a lot of people are talking about this is not the leader we actually elected. The court now, the judiciary is now the one selecting our leaders for us. And when you go to the state level, you see that there's this sort of disconnect from the grassroots and also the governor. That we see a lot of governors being, hostile or being given punitive measures or sanctions to some of these leaders. And
I think
so
we
much.
have the General back. General, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Sorry, there was a change of
yes, just
before you go.
That is the question. The question I asked that you were answering about how the people can hold these leaders, the alleged perpetrators of and enablers of this act accountable.
And then he did ask a question.
Yeah, if we have to get people accountable, the citizens, once the citizens decide and say, look, this is the pedigree of this person. From nowhere, you have so much money, he comes and buys the votes. He buys the citizens. Overnight, you see things change. But if we say, no, we know this person, he has not performed, he is this, we need somebody with that. And that is when you look at that the local government reforms brought back a situation where local governments was taken to the local people. Today, how many people in the local government are made chairman? See somebody from Abuja, somebody from the state capital, goes back to the local government and is getting elected. He doesn't know what those people have been involved with. In fact, it's only the councillors that you are liking, but the local government chairman is so powerful. So we must get back our society and save our country from criminals. Those we elect, we must hold them accountable. Those we elect, we must know their pedigree. The security agencies, we must hold them accountable. Because if today there are policemen in my locality, and we know that they are collaborating with citizens, we must inundate the commissioner of police and the IG with the information that this man is collaborating with citizens. And if they don't, we will take back our police station from them and say, look, if you don't take this man, he can't function here. We have to get to that the situation, because these things that I told you are mind-boggling, because there is definitely negligence or collaboration, or sometimes outright collaboration with these criminals. So we have to fish out these people, and we must make sure we tell them we know what you are doing. What is wrong? A community can sit down, because when we used to have this, some of the measures put in place, these police something relations, is not more functioning.
Okay, Brigadier General, before
fact,
you go, since we're running out of time, I would like to ask you this question before you go. Kidnapping, those days they say don't travel, don't go. If you don't have anything doing so much outside your home at night, do not go anywhere. But you know, we've seen the change in the pattern of how these things happen. Families are being abducted from their homes at the moment. As a security expert, can you give us tips on how to protect ourselves and perhaps a way to avoid being a victim of this heinous crime? What can we do at home, or maybe when you're outside your home?
Thank you very much. You see, technology has made it a little bit easy. You have CCTV cameras that can be deployed in estates. They are not expensive. For goodness sake, there's advertised here and there. Every estate must have CCTV covering one house or the other. That's what we call neighborhood watch. I watch my neighbor, my neighbor watches me. Now, those who even have the means can help in providing some of these things within the society, within the district. And then these CCTV cameras capture moments when people are coming in and going in, and they turn in these cameras to security agencies. But the difficulty is that the national ID card scheme has remained at this stage for how many years? I mean, it's a shame that in the 21st century, Nigerians have not captured all the citizens' national service scheme. Something is wrong. That place is where the federal government must x-ray and make sure that they clean that place, so that every citizen has his biometric, every citizen. Because these are some of the national security infrastructure that you use in crime detection. I mean, for goodness sake, they scaled that house, they broke that house open, there must be fingerprints on them. And once you have fingerprints on them, you should know who and who it is. You have Nigerians, non-Nigerians come in today and reside in this country and become Nigerians, because we say they are our people, they are we speak the same language. So what? There are Frenchmen in Switzerland, they speak French, they are citizens of Switzerland. If you go to Belgium, they speak those words, but they are citizens of this country. We must carry away all these semantics and all this citizenship and say, look, he's my religious person. Why are you exposing him? National security does not know tribe, does not know religion. does not know brother, does not know sister. Because if your brother or sister is a security threat, he or she must be reported. And that's why you must give kudos to Alhaji Murtalab. Alhaji Murtalab noticed certain threats in his son and he reported. If not so, Alhaji Murtalab would have been a wanted person or in jail somewhere. But he reported. That's what saved him. That is his son, biological son. Today, we cover our brothers, we cover our sisters, our children. We know they don't have any source of livelihood. They are living above their means. We don't even query them. We don't even question them. We don't even report them. We even partake in the loot and enjoy it. You can't get security in this situation. We must take back our country from criminals. That means that it doesn't matter whether we speak the same language. You are my daughter, you are my son, you are my brother, you are my father, you are my pastor, you are my imam. If you are involved in criminality, I should expose you, I should report you. And that way we can take back our country from our criminals. Those who are going to elect to lead us from the federal to the local government level, we must know their pedigree. It's not that somebody will go and steal money somewhere, overnight come back and they use that same money, proceeds of crime, to buy, because that is what is called laundering. They use profit of crime to launder themselves into government to protect themselves. So if we don't do that one, we are being run, we'll be ruled by criminals, we'll be governed by criminals. So we must take back
General,
our
I mean,
country.
one of the
These
things
criminals,
you
we
made
send them into the police
mention
force.
of is the
Politicians send
fact
them into the
that
police force.
we should hold people accountable, even with if they are from the same tribe. I mean, we had this week Senator Sheikh Hussaini, who made point of that as well, saying that we don't hold people accountable if they are from our tribe. We get so sentimental, and that's why things like this are going on. So it's great to have another person, press on that particular issues. Tribal and religious issues are also complicating this issue. We don't pay people, we don't hold these people accountable. But thank you so much, General, Brigadier General, for your time, or for taking almost an hour to talk to us about this situation bedeviling the nation, and how every person as a citizen would find a way to give their own contribution as to making the nation safe for everyone. Thank you so much, retired Brigadier General Jon Temlong, that joined us. He was the commander in charge of the multinational joint task force. Thank you so much for your time.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
You.
Have a happy new year.
Yes, sir.